bin.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Badabonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And we're going to start with a quote from Trevor from our Facebook group. Trevor said this morning, while they knocked it out of the park with that episode. Thank you, Trevor, for your comment. And yeah, he's right.
That was an episode. Oh.
It certainly was an episode of The Mandalorian.
Did I say I'm Kenton Larson? Did I say that?
I think so.
I'm so excited that I don't think I said my name.
I think you did.
Did I? I'm Kenton Larson, and I approve of The Mandalorian, episode 900. What episode are we on?
This was episode
14.
14, but episode 6 for the season. It
Right.
was directed by Robert Rodriguez. So this was the one that was directed by Robert Rodriguez. He did not write it, though. It was written by Jon Favreau. But yeah, like, I mean, it's, you know, I've stopped trying to guess at the pacing of this because we never know. Like with this show, they can take us directly to the next planet, the next step in the Baby Yoda saga, so to speak, or they can stop at a different planet for some reason and do that like they did a couple episodes ago. But this one they didn't. They went straight from Ahsoka, straight from that whole thing where they took back that town to the magic Jedi planet that I forget the name of course, but I had it. So it's starts
on
with
my
a T.
tongue.
Tithan, something like that. Starts with a T.
Yeah.
But so he takes him there, and I thought, to be honest, I actually thought it was going to be more difficult for him to find the Jedi Temple. But I guess because of what else happens in the episode, they had to get there quickly. So it was like they arrive at the planet. There it is. There's the hilltop. Oh, you can't land there because it's too small. I love that. And I forgot about the opening scene in which we see him kind of playing with Baby Yoda, right? Like, and he keeps calling him Grogu, and he looks up, what Grogu? And he just likes the idea that he knows his name now. I think Mando is starting to obviously think of him as more of a his child kind of thing. Certainly treating him more like his child than he has before, and that's just helped by the fact that he knows the name of the creature.
It was that's a very found that heartwarming, that opening scene, but I knew what it meant, and I knew that the chapter was called The Tragedy, and I was just like, I was shaking in my boots, Dan. I was shaking in my boots when I watched the intro and when I saw the name of the episode, because I was like, this better not be the tragedy of the death of the baby, because I will not be able to take it.
Yeah, it wasn't that. I mean, obviously we're going to talk spoilers here, but yeah, he takes him down to that planet, sees, like, from the air, you see the hill with the big, you know, it was a pedestal of some sort. It was kind of more of a sphere on the ground. And then he says, I love the phrase, we're going to do the rest windows down. And then you see him flying with his rocket pack, holding Baby Yoda under his arm. And Baby Yoda's ears are flapping in the wind. It's a great shot of them flying together.
Fabulous.
With the rocket pack. I love that.
And Dan, this is where I have to say, you're going to appreciate this. This is where I was like, we're finally going to meet Mace Windu. That's what I thought. I legitimately thought it.
Oh, no.
During that scene when they were flying there, I was like, I can't believe this is the episode where we see Mace Windu finally. I was getting ready to text you. No, I'm just kidding. No spoilers. But
you watch this really early in the morning, and I don't. I usually watch it on my lunch break. So yeah, you're like 6 a.m. You're up and watching this. But yeah, like we did not see Mace Windu, but we see. And at first there was a split second there where I legitimately thought nothing was going to happen. I'm like, oh, this is a bust. It's not going to work. They're going to have to do something else. And then after a few minutes of just sitting there, the Force appears around Grogu, and it's like this big column of Force. I don't know how else to describe it. How else do you describe that? It's just a big Force burst that kind of encapsulates him, and he's got his eyes closed, and it won't let Mando near. It won't let the Mandalorian get near it at all.
Anyone, presumably.
It's just like in the Avengers. Remember in the Avengers when they have that Force shield around the beam that's going up above the top of the tower, and there's like, you have to stick the spear through it, like that kind of thing. That's what it is. You can't get at Grogu. And meanwhile, As that happens, another ship appears to come land nearby, and we recognize the ship immediately.
It's the Slave One. And that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was very exciting to see that. So clearly, Boba Fett was able to retrieve his ship from Jabba's parking lot, and it's still.
Well, maybe there's only one inexplicable thing in this, and that's he couldn't get that armor away from Corn on the Cob. He'd rather. So man, let a Mandalorian grab it away for me, and then I'll challenge by far a harder opponent.
A much more difficult, but maybe he felt that Mando would be more honorable. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. It seems that when we first see Boba Fett earlier this season, we see him off in the distance, and he watches as Mando flies away from Corn on the Cob in his town. And after that whole ordeal is over, so presumably, here's my hypothesis. Boba Fett has been wandering around Tatooine for however many years it's been, 5 years, I guess, obviously, since the Return of the Jedi happened. And he's been searching for his armor. He was able to get out of the Sarlacc. He was not able to get his armor. The Sarlacc, maybe he didn't know that the Marshal had it, that Cobb Vanth had it. But certainly remember what's it called? The Krayt Dragon ate the Sarlacc. So he probably felt he couldn't get his armor back because of that. And maybe he's searching for it. And maybe he was just on his way to Corn on the Cob to get it back when Mando showed up and grabbed it. So he was almost there. And then he sees him speeding off of the armor. He's like, damn it. Now I have to go after this guy.
We don't know when Boba Fett got out of the Sarlacc, though. We don't know how long ago that was. The only frame of reference is last season when we hear his spurs jingling. We know, so he's been out for a while. I don't know how much time, but we don't know for a fact. Like, because remember, in Return of the Jedi, they say where you're going to be tortured for eternity or whatever, a thousand
years,
whatever. Right. You're going to be tortured, and so we don't know. We don't know how long he was in there for, or exactly how he got out of there. He might have been crapped out of the dragon for all we know. Like that. I actually thought of that today, where I was like, they might not be showing us that because clearly that we're going to have a spin-off series. How could there not be? And I think part of the flashback, or the way that series has to start is how did he get out?
Yeah, exactly. Now it's interesting, and you bring up the idea of of him with the spurs in that one shot last episode. Now I had thought after it was revealed that Cobb Vanth has the armor, I thought that was Cobb Vanth approaching Ming-Na Wen's character. I don't remember the name of her character, but she was in that. And again, the worst episode of last season was the one with the bad bounty hunter, and she was a good bounty hunter, like not good, but she was a talented bounty hunter, and then she dies, and then somehow so it turns out it is Boba Fett that is there. So he's got, even though he doesn't have his armor, he's still got that spur sound, which again, I don't know if that's spurs or what it is that makes that sound, but I thought Cobb Vanth had it too. I thought the sound was also something that went along with Cobb Vanth moving around.
Well, we will have to go back and check that, but clearly that was meant to be Boba Fett based on the events of this episode.
Yes, yeah. So he somehow saved her life. He brought her back from the dead and installed like mechanics in her stomach. What does she do there? She lifts away a portion of her covering, and she shows like her stomach is now a bunch of wires.
We haven't even got to the part where he reveals himself, of course.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Where and I thought of you during that scene because you said last week, two people who ultimately are in agreement need to fight first.
Yes.
And so that's what we had again.
Same kind of thing. Yeah. Like he doesn't know who this is. And I think it's interesting actually when you think about Boba Fett's side of things, and he's like, and Mando's of course like Beskar belongs to the Mandalorians. It was stolen from them. It needs to be returned. And he's right, but Boba Fett is a special case. He's not really Mandalorian, and neither was his father. And I didn't know. Did they ever establish that before, that Jango was a foundling? Is this the first time we've heard this?
First time, as far as I know. As far as I know.
Jango was a foundling similar to Din Djarin, similar to Mando, our main character. And he was brought up in the ways of the Mandalore and fought. He said he fought in whatever war. So he was like a real like Mandalorian, the same way our main character is. But then when Django died, Boba took his armor and obviously went off on his own. He was not raised in the way of the Mandalore, so he doesn't know anything about it. He just wears the armor because it was his father's. That's it.
And he knows how to use it.
Yeah, he goes in there. So again, they get together. They have their confusing fight. We don't know who each other are. And then Boba Fett's prepared. He's like, we've got a gun on your child. Like we had Min Na Wen sitting there with the sniper rifle on the child. Although I would submit that she probably wouldn't have been able to shoot him anyway. I'm sure that force thing would have deflected. You don't think so? Or are you nodding?
No, I'm agreeing with you. I think
Okay.
I thought that the better strategy for Mando was and I knew when he took off his jetpack what we were in for. But I knew then.
Well, what drives me nuts is he never puts it back on. He just instead runs up and down the hill a few times to go back to get the child. It's like, throw your freaking jetpack on there and get back there faster. What are you doing?
Right.
So he goes. So while they're talking, another ship arrives, and it's a troop carrier. It's an Imperial troop carrier that lands, and a ton of stormtroopers pile out of that thing and start attacking. So now they have to fight off the stormtroopers. So Mando goes back to check on the child, to check on Grogu, and then Ming Na Wen and Boba Fett take on the stormtroopers, and that was a great scene as well. It was like Boba Fett hand-to-hand combat with stormtroopers, taking them out with a crazy ass looking stick he's got. That was great. I loved it.
Oh, me too. I was all in. I'm all in on the. I even like the Nomad Boba Fett. I didn't even need his armor to think he was just ass kickingly great. Tamira Morrison looks badass. Like
he looks pumped. He looks like he's bulked up a bit over the years.
Yeah,
looks bigger, right?
Yeah, for sure he is, and he also looks. His face is appropriately weathered. It looks good. He looks like he's been on Tatooine.
He's kind of the perfect age, and obviously they've got makeup on him and stuff as well, but he's the perfect age to represent Boba Fett at that time in the whole timeline. So then, we have this great scene where Boba Fett and Ming Na Wen are fighting off the stormtroopers. Mando goes back, tries to bring the child out of the force thing. Again, gets blasted back. Like, he gets pushed away every time he tries. He
gets knocked out.
Yeah. He's unconscious, and meanwhile he's like, well, I guess what was happening to me? Oh yeah, second troop carrier showed up. That's right.
That's good.
Which is so that when that showed up, I'm like, okay, well, what's his face is just sitting in the Star Destroyer up in orbit. Like I knew that's where that was. So later on, when we see the shot come out of the sky, I knew that was coming. Although I didn't expect them to destroy the Razor Crest. That was a horrible thing. Like I was sad when they destroyed that ship. I'm like, it's like
I know
it's like having like the Millennium Falcon destroyed. It's like that kind of a thing. This ship is as much of a character as the person who drives it. So maybe that's our loss. Maybe that's the death this season is the Razor Crest.
Oh no, there's going to be more. We've set it up. Keep going with your.
All right, then we go. So then again, they got to fight off more stormtroopers, and then Mando wakes up and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go protect you. Stay here," and he wanders off because I think what he's thinking is nothing can get through that force shield. Like I think that he's tried twice, it doesn't work. So he's like, "Okay, the kid's safe for now. I'm going to go off and fight the stormtroopers." But of course, like less than a minute later, it's kind of like how David Prowse it's how like we finished recording our podcast and then the next day David Prowse passes away. So we have to, you know what I mean? It's the timing of it, right? So he leaves and then like a minute later, the thing ends and Baby Yoda's asleep on the rock. Like it's all over. And we don't know. We don't know what happened with that. They don't give us any answers about it, about if any Jedi approached or if it alerted any Jedi. We'll find out, I'm sure. Someone's going to show up. Some Jedi is going to show up after that. But what happens, in fact, is, first of all, Boba Fett and Ming Na Wen are so good at fighting off the stormtroopers that the second ship takes off. They both take off, I guess. They're like, retreat, retreat. And then as they're leaving, Boba Fett takes them both out. And then there's the best joke, I think, so far of this season, possibly the series, when he says, "Good shot." And he's like, "I was aiming for the other one." That was a funny joke. I love that.
Yeah, that was a good joke. Good Star Wars joke.
because he basically there's two of them, one's higher than the other one. He hits the higher one, and that one falls into the second one, and then they both crash. But he's like, I was aiming for the other one, so that was a good joke.
Solid.
So they take out those stormtroopers, and then that's when like a minute later, that's when the bolt comes out of the sky from the Star Destroyer that destroys the Razor Crest, and then
it's not fixable.
No, it's blown. It's blown
gone.
Up real good.
Yeah.
There's no way there. And later on he's sifting through the wreckage. But then and then we look up, and he looks up and he sees the Star Destroyer in the atmosphere and says, "Oh, great, there's a Star Destroyer there." And then they send in the Dark Troopers. You see Gideon, you see all our friends from the Empire, and they're like, "Let's send in the Dark Troopers." And it turns out the Dark Troopers are droids, I guess, right? Is that what they are?
Well, if they're some hybrid, if not droids, but they appeared to be robotic. So yeah, I think so.
Yeah. They're either droids or they're like stormtroopers with like maybe their heads are human, maybe they're like RoboCop. They're kind of both. But what they reminded me of as they're flying in, again, shades of Marvel here. They reminded me of the Iron Man drones that Tony Stark built in like Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Like those like just Iron Man robots basically is what they are. They flew in. They had their rockets were on their feet, not on their back like we've seen. I think that's the first time we've ever seen rockets coming out of a foot of somebody. I mean, it happens in Marvel all the time. It's the first time in Star Wars. So those guys come in and they swoop in. They land right at the top of the hill. Baby Yoda's passed out on the rock. They grab Baby Yoda and take off with him before Mando can get back. And this is where I have the problem with, like, why wouldn't you put your rocket pack back on and get back up there faster? It takes 2 seconds to put the rocket pack on. You know, like he's just running up there with what's her face, and they don't get him.
We're a little unclear on some logistics, like including where, like when Boba Fett finds the Razor Crest. A bit confusing about the logistics of where everything's parked. And also, like, where's the parking lot? And also, a little confusing in terms of where's the backpack in relation to where we are now.
Well,
where was
I'll put this out there. I'm confused as to why he still wears a cape when he's got that rocket pack. Why does that rocket pack not just burn up his cape? Like, I don't know what happens with that.
Well, it clearly doesn't. It clearly doesn't.
It doesn't. But Mando, like, it looks awkward when he's wearing the rocket pack. The cape is kind of off to the side, and it looks a little bit awkward. It's like, I wish he could just like take the cape off when he's got the rocket pack on or something. I don't know. Capes are very popular in the Star Wars universe. I noticed that.
Yeah.
And Moff Gideon has a nice cape as well. Of course, Darth Vader has a great cape, as do many Imperial officers. So the Dark Troopers take the child back to the Star Destroyer. Boba Fett goes after them for a minute, but then realizes that he can't take on a Star Destroyer, so he backs off and flies back down to the planet. And then they take off. Gideon takes off with Baby Yoda. And then we see that, they come together at the end, and Boba Fett says, our deal. And by the way, did we talk about? Oh, we missed it. Sorry, I'm all over the place today. We missed the part where Boba Fett goes into the Razor Crest and takes his armor back and puts it on and then kicks ass. Like that was the second part of that fight against the stormtroopers. After the second stormtrooper ship showed up, he goes in there, grabs his armor, comes back out, and uses it to kick everyone's ass. And again, I note that it is not the complete armor. Like again, it's the helmet, it's the backpack, it's the chest piece. Maybe not so much the leg stuff. Although he had some kind of knee things. What were those knee guns he had? But it looked a lot better on him than it did on Corn on the Cob.
Yeah, and let's not forget also the line, I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the galaxy like my father. That is the second time Tamura Morrison has delivered that line, once as Django, once now as Boba. That's pretty good. And there's also a little hint of Luke Skywalker in the like my father. I thought that was a nice line that encapsulated both famous Star Wars quotes. And Tamura Morrison must have got a kick out of delivering that line for a second time, a memorable line.
Yeah, and as delivering it as Boba Fett, not as Jango Fett, right?
Yeah.
And then now, this opens up. You're right. This opens up a whole new world of possibilities with getting into the Boba Fett story about who he was, and why. Like I could see that series having a ton of flashbacks back to like the days of the original trilogy and what he was doing and that kind of stuff. So I would love to see that. I think that would be really cool. And then what happens at the end? Basically, he says that we are going to help you. He says our deal was that you return the armor and we ensure the safety of the child. That was a big commitment, by the way. He didn't really have to do that, but I think he said it meaning that we're not going to harm him. And then when the Empire showed up and took the child, he's like, okay, well, we got to help him get the child back. So that's what they're going to do. We go
Pretty
back
great.
to it was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna have Boba Fett, Ming Na Wen, Mando, and then he goes back to see Cara Dune at the end. So we're probably gonna get her and Chubbs, Carl Weathers' character. And those are all going to be kind of that's our crew. Oh yeah, and Bill Burr, right? They're gonna get Bill Burr out of jail, and like he was asking about her.
And let's not forget, we've got Ahsoka, we have got Bo-Katan, and we've made a phone call to an unknown Jedi.
Who's the phone call? Oh yes, of course, the phone call. Baby Yoda made the phone
There
call.
is a Jedi in play, and we're unaware of who that Jedi is. So, this finale. The Avengers are assembling.
Yes, that's right. Very much like the Avengers. And then we get this awesome final scene in the Star Destroyer in which Gideon comes down the hallway. He walks down, like we see 2 shots of him walking into the camera. It's kind of weird. And then we see him go into the detention cell where they have Baby Yoda, and Baby Yoda is just throwing those stormtroopers around with the Force. He's whacking them, he's choking them, he's bonking their heads together, and basically just taking his, like, just having his way with these stormtroopers. But then he gets tuckered out. all that hard work and play makes him tuckered out, so then he falls asleep, and then they just stun him. And then the Gideon says, "Call Dr. So-and-so. This is the guy who was experimenting on last season. Call the doctor. Tell him we have our donor." Good. So now they're going to go back into pulling blood and or midichlorians from Baby Yoda in order to try and infuse them into these Dark Troopers, or maybe not the Dark Troopers, maybe something else. So the Dark Troopers, those come from something else, right? Aren't those from like a comic book or something?
From I believe the first time was a video game. I played that video game. I just can't remember the name of it right now. I played so many Star Wars video games, but
yeah,
I played it on my PC.
Okay,
so it was a while ago.
But they were, the idea behind the Dark Troopers were that they were Force users, right? They were like they.
I can't remember.
All right, well, whatever. Someone will remind us, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So then, and then the other thing is something else I wanted to mention I forgot about. I'm trying to think about what else. What else do you have to say about it?
Well, I mean, just as an episode, it's 33 minutes long or something. It had the most, I mean, the action was fantastic. The surprises didn't stop. I think we now have an idea of the shape of the season, because now it's like another heist film where now we got to go.
It's a prison break now, right?
Yeah, this is going to be something.
As like, this is calling back to the original Star Wars movie. Like they're going to go into that Star Destroyer. They're going to try and break out Baby Yoda. And they're bringing a bunch of other people and getting they're getting the crew together, as you said. Yeah, go ahead.
Not to mention our 2 X-Wing pilots.
Well, yeah, okay, and that kind of brings me to the next. So what I was going to say was, last episode we had the scene between Cara Dune and Kim's Convenience about, he's like, "Oh, you should join. We could use more people like you." And I thought she said no. And then he throws this thing, which I thought it might be a communicator or something. I didn't know what that was, but it turns out it's a badge. And then they're basically saying, okay, you have, like, she is now part of the New Republic, right? Is that what that is?
Yeah. She's been deputized, basically.
She's officially a marshal for that planet or that city or whatever. And so as that, she is part of the. So I don't get it though. She said she didn't want to do it, and then he still gave her that thing. Like, maybe I missed something in that conversation. I don't know.
No,
I seem to remember her saying that she did not want to rejoin the alliance.
He put the badge on the table. And it was like, it's for her to take her leave, and she took it.
Okay.
I think it's that simple.
Okay.
It's that simple.
Okay.
So Mando goes back. She's made that decision clearly when he goes back, and she clearly now she's like, I'm legit. But if they got Baby Yoda, then okay, I'm on board.
Yeah, that's what is interesting about that scene is because he shows up there without Baby Yoda. That would have been a red flag immediately for me. I'm like, if he shows up in this thing and he's not carrying Baby Yoda, where is he? And she didn't seem to have that curiosity.
Well,
and then
he leaves him on the ship every time. I mean, that's why. Yeah.
That's fair. He does sometimes leave him on the ship. So there you go. So then he's trying to get the crew together, and so now we have 2 more episodes left, and likely it's going to be now the next one is the one directed by Rick Fumiana or whatever his last name is.
Right.
So this is I'm anticipating it's going to be a good episode. It's going to have Bill Burr in it. It's going to be. It's going to be kind of a jailbreak episode. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Is that the next one or is that the finale? That's what I want to know.
Well, I don't know. What else could they do? So they could do the thing where they take they take us off to one other planet for one more other side adventure, and then they go on to like maybe they have to meet up with the Mandalorians at some point, the other Mandalorians.
Maybe.
Right? I don't know.
If they next episode, what I was thinking is okay. So I don't know if it's next episode or the finale, but assuming they launch, like it could be getting Bill Burr the next episode. It could be a few things. But
Right.
I love the fact, okay, he's flying around in a Slave One with Boba Fett. That's pure anarchy. I can't, like, from a Star Wars fan perspective, that's
Yeah.
pure gold on a way. Like, I kept thinking, this is episode 7, man. This is episode 7. That's what we're watching here, The Mandalorian. It is episode 7. This is what episode 7 could have been. Could have been this. This is the thing.
But now they never would have been able to get away with making episode 7 without any of the main characters. Like they can't without Luke, Leia, and Han. You can't have a Star
Well, there's
Wars movie.
a Jedi in play right now, and I think what is gonna happen is, and it's gonna be good, is they are gonna be fighting on this ship. They're gonna have to fight to get on. They're gonna be fighting when they're on there. It's gonna be like the original crew at the Death Star. They're gonna have plans. They're gonna have things that they're gonna need to break into. It's gonna be like, and the plan will go wrong. And then the plan will go right, and then there will be a surprise at some point, and it'll look like all hope is lost, and a Jedi Knight is going to show up and kick royal ass, and and help them. And the question is, who will that Jedi Knight be? It's going to be so cool, and whatever it is, it's going to be so cool and so amazing. And are they going to give us the Luke Skywalker we did not see in the new trilogy? Are we gonna get that somehow in this show? We might get that.
You know how they release a couple days after the episode is out, they release the character posters for that episode.
Yeah.
So we're probably gonna get one for Boba Fett this week, and probably for Ming-Na Wen's character. But someone made one last week that showed Sebastian Stan as Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, I saw that.
So they took Sebastian Stan, they made him look like Luke in Return of the Jedi, and he already kind of looks like Mark Hamill anyway. Like, he's got a very similar face. So that is like I think what fans want. They want Sebastian Stan to show up as they want the Winter Soldier to come in here. Speaking of Avengers. And and meanwhile, he's got another series over at Disney Plus. He's doing one with isn't there Winter Soldier and Hawk? What's his name?
Yeah.
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
That's a series that's starting up soon, I think.
Yeah.
On Disney Plus. So if that's the case, he's not going to be around for more than one episode. I think they could also go with Mark Hamill if they did go that way. I think they would do the de-aging thing with Mark Hamill. I think that's more likely than them recasting the role, because Mark Hamill is still around and still very active, and I think it would be an insult not to at least offer to him first.
Well, we don't want the claymation Mark Hamill like the Leia from Rogue One. That still bugs me.
But I thought he looked pretty in The Last Jedi. I thought he looked pretty good. The younger version of him, right?
No complaints.
Like, that looks good.
No complaints about that. And so I think it could be done. There's a bunch of stuff they could do. We might just see him from a distance. We might just see, like, he doesn't need to say anything. And the other question is, like, are we happy if Baby Yoda goes away with Luke Skywalker? Well, we probably feel better about that but we still want him to stay with Mando, I think. I think there's still a question about where Baby Yoda belongs. And I'm very curious. And then how do you do a season 3 after you determine where he belongs? You know,
that's the thing. Like, yeah, and I think that do fans, like, I think most fans do not want to see Mando and Grogu separated.
No.
Like, I think that I was thinking about this too as I'm watching. I'm like, so does this mean like whoever comes to get Baby Yoda, he goes off with him, and then that's it, and then Mando does something else? I think that probably season 3, they figure out where Baby Yoda has to go, but Mando still goes with him. I think Mando stays with him. Like, wherever he has to go, they go so he can get training or whatever. But then, yeah, our main character is still with Baby Yoda throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah, I was thinking at the end of this season. Okay, if we're plotting this out and we're saying Baby Yoda must stay in these episodes, and I think that is what we would say. I think, boy, it would take, like, to have Baby Yoda missing from more than a single episode would drive people insane. So I think at the end of this season, what I was thinking is, okay, it all goes down. So we're gonna lose somebody in this big battle. Who the hell knows? Maybe Bill Burr. We're gonna.
It could be. Well, it could be Boba Fett too. It could be. If
no,
they're
I don't see
think
it.
so?
No, he's his intellectual property is of high value.
It could be, like I said, it could be like a Black Widow kind of thing where they kill him here, and then the series is a flashback.
No.
Just like they do it now? Okay,
I don't see it. I do not see it. This is too exciting a future for Star Wars to be able to do that. But that doesn't mean we won't see somebody important bite the big one. I think that because because Moff Gideon's got the dark saber, and once again he showed it to us again today.
Oh yes, he did. Yeah.
That's like, hey, this is going to be important in the next episode, everybody. That's what that telegraphed. And because Bo-Katan is going to show up and want what's hers, they're now aligned in what they're trying to do. Yeah, she's gonna wants her dark saber. They want to get little Grogu. And I think and of course they must accomplish that goal no matter what happens. I think they will. A Jedi Knight will help them. I think that's pretty clear. I don't think the Jedi Knight's going to show up, whoever it is, and just go like, oh, you guys took care of this. I think he's going to, whoever shows up is going to kick serious ass. It could be Yaddle for all we know. It could be Yaddle. That could be kind of fun. But so then at the end of the season, I would say the Jedi Knight says, I will take you to train. We will go and complete your training. They go. That's the end of the season. Season 3 starts. The training is complete. Like, see, the training is complete. You may go.
And Baby Yoda's grown up a little bit. Maybe Baby Yoda has grown up and can actually talk or something. Well, like, I'm so curious about when does he become more than just a baby? You know, like,
well, when
does he become Yoda?
We also might discover who saved him. And I was also thinking who saved him could ultimately end up to be Anakin himself. It could be. It's unlikely, but it could be. It's going to be a surprise, whoever saved him. It's going to be pretty big. It could be Obi-Wan Kenobi who saved him just because Ewan McGregor's back in the robe.
Yeah, but Obi-Wan's dead at this point. Like I'm thinking that whoever saved him is the one that's one that's going to come back and get him.
Yeah, right. But the flashback to he was rescued from the Jedi Temple.
Yeah.
And I think if there's a flashback, we'll see Obi-Wan Kenobi rescue him because he was still alive.
Oh, we could.
Yeah.
We could. I was thinking that whoever it is that saved him would be the one that comes back to get him after all this.
Oh, maybe.
And finishes telling us that story. That could be it as well.
But
I don't know.
He was communing with the Jedi. That's pretty damn sure. But who, which one, and where is the big question.
Yeah. And certainly, I've read all kinds of pieces on this over the last week. There's like, which Jedi are out there? How many? Yeah. Who is actually out there as far as Jedi? And there's Ezra, and there's Ahsoka, and I think that was it. Oh, there's the guy from this game, right? This guy.
Yeah, I'll forget it. Fallen Jedi guy.
Fallen Order guy.
Fallen Order guy. I mean, yeah.
Something. He could be him.
That'd be
right?
lame.
No. That's lame.
It'd be okay. But what would be better than that is a Jedi we all know and recognize. Just like seeing Slave One streak across the sky. Well, that could have been any ship that he took and used, but that wouldn't have been as good. And I think it's the same thing. I don't think Fallen Order guy. He might have his place somewhere, but I don't think it's here. I think this has to be something. This has to be something bigger than that. It has to be. It has to be appropriate for the grandeur of this battle. And that's why I keep thinking it's got to be Luke Skywalker in some way or another. It's got to be Luke Skywalker kicking ass in a way that we were robbed of in the most recent sequel series.
I gotta say, I still love that scene in The Last Jedi when he's facing off against Kylo Ren. That was an amazing scene. And I mean, it's not like a fight, so to speak. It's not a lightsaber duel, but it's still a great, like when he dodges them and he's like, "See you around, kid," and he takes off. Like that whole thing was great. I love that. I still like. That's still my favorite movie out of that trilogy, by the way, and I will stand by that.
Yeah.
If I'm talking about the sequel trilogy, really the only one I really actively don't like is the third one. I think the first and the second one have a lot of redeeming qualities. That third one is pretty messed up. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying it's not going to be Luke. I just think that there could be other things they could do. It does feel a lot like they are world building here, and they are introducing characters that are going to. This is kind of like the MCU of the Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So this is basically, it is kind of like the Avengers, in that it's introducing all these characters and then bringing them together, and then they're all going to go off and on their own and do their own thing. So we're going to see an Ahsoka series, we're going to see an Obi-Wan series, we're going to see, well, there is also the Cassian Andor series that I don't know what the hell's going on with that one, but that's going to be coming as well. So yeah, it really is anybody's guess as to what's going to happen. I think if it is Luke Skywalker, I think we will get some lines out of him. I don't think it'll be a silent thing. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe he goes off to start the Jedi Academy. Maybe we see 5-year-old Kylo Ren there.
I was thinking it's possible, but if he goes off with Luke, we have to establish two things. Number one, that he is safe with Luke Skywalker, and number two, that he leaves Luke Skywalker before Kylo Ren turns on all of the people in the temple.
Before that all happens, yeah.
Those two, and what we've suggested, the way to do this would do that, which is at the end of this, he finishes his training over the series break. We don't know how long a period of time that could be. It could be a long period of time.
Yep.
Unknown. But I think if they do that, I mean, this is pretty exciting stuff. Like when you even pause to just think about it and go, we weren't sure that Boba Fett was even coming back ever in this series. He just shoots in out of the blue in the Slave One. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that people would stand up in the theater and just go crazy for, just yell and scream and cheer in the fighting scenes too. I thought the digital effects with the stormtroopers getting hit by the boulder and all of that stuff, just
that was cool.
Solid gold.
She sends that boulder down and it takes him out. That was really cool.
Like this, and of course Robert Rodriguez is known for he's Robert now, but we used to call him Roberto, and I guess he just
I never did.
I think he just anglicized it when he started making more movies in America. I think it's that simple because of.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I think so, because we were more familiar. I personally, the Spy Kids movies. I don't really know those. I know him from Desperado and El Mariachi. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And that very much did have a bit of a feel, an El Mariachi feel, because it's in the desert. There's like that same kind of terrain. So yeah, it did feel like a Robert Rodriguez movie. It really did. Like, all we needed was a little bit of swearing and a little more violence. Boba Fett was El Mariachi.
Maybe some vampires.
He was like sort of the lone man with a couple cool weapons and. Oh, and by the way, there's some more.
He doesn't have the guitar case, but he's just got his armor with all the. And I love it. I loved it when he threatened to use the. What do they call those? The tweeting sparrows or whatever the hell that's called. The thing on his arm. I don't remember what it's called.
I don't remember. That's close enough though. but I thought what I like also is it's a pure Robert Rodriguez to do the old. I've got a couple weapons and watch me. Like first, I'll entertain you by killing everybody with those, and it's like, oh yeah, I got some more over here. So it's like, and John Wick does that too, where it's like, okay, we've entertained you with these weapons. Oh, there's some more behind this glass case. And then you get more, and then you fight, and the battle gets more creative and interesting. So I love how they unfold. They didn't torture us by not letting us see him in his armor, but we had to wait a little bit to see it. And similarly, when he finally launches those knee darts and it was like all the stuff that we knew Boba Fett could do back in the day. But we finally saw it happen.
He did not bend over as much as Cobb Vanth did when he launched his rocket. He just kind of slightly moved forward, and that was it. He didn't need to bend all the way over like Cobb did.
But I appreciate I appreciated it, so I could say he dropped his pants and fired a rocket one more time.
And that's what he used to take out those ships, of course, at the end.
Right.
So there you go. So it was just, again, all around great episode. It's very exciting. I can't wait for the next one.
I thought this was a 5-star episode, 10 out of 10 episode. Like where you sort of looked back on how they laid all the groundwork this season and just got like the story seems to be meandering sometimes. And even when it's meandering, it pays off in the end. Like it's like an episode like this. I mean, like when I watched it today, I just thought all of these episodes of The Mandalorian. So how many hours of The Mandalorian have we got now?
Well, I mean, if they're averaging a half hour, then we have maybe 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours of right?
6, 8. So we've got like 3 movies worth or something, 3 or 4
Yeah,
movies
something
worth.
like that. I would say that. Yeah.
Because this is, I think, when people heard that Star Wars was coming back, this is what they imagined. They imagined seeing the Slave One shooting across the sky again. They imagined some stuff we'd see that we'd be confused by, and some old classics that we wouldn't be confused by, and blending of the prequels and the sequel trilogy and the original trilogy, a blending of all that, and that's really what we're seeing. We're just seeing it all come together in this series. It's unreal. It's like it might be the best Star Wars. It might be like the best thing we could ever expect Star Wars to be.
It's certainly the best thing out of the Disney era, and that's for sure. And the other thing I was actually thinking about this the other day. If we're thinking in terms of movies, the best movies to come out of the Disney era may be Solo and Rogue One, not the sequel trilogy, because those are both really good movies, and I should rewatch them both. But yeah, I think that it's I think the way they tell the story is different than a movie. I don't know that this would be as good if it were a movie or movies, because we have this kind of every week we see a new episode. That way of storytelling is very different. So, and I like how they're able to kind of encapsulate such a small piece of the story in one episode. Like, it's only half an hour, and so much happened, yet it was just very much, here's what happens on this planet, we move on. So it's like the pacing is really good, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I really like that.
And the thing I wanted to see the least was Baby Yoda being kidnapped or in danger. I wanted that. That's the last thing I wanted to see. But the end of this episode gives us so much hope for ass kicking down the line that I think I'm willing to accept that we're going to have to see him in danger and kidnapped at some points in order to have the big, exciting ending where all of those wrongs get righted.
And don't forget, like we see there, they made a point of showing us at the end of the episode that Baby Yoda is not helpless.
Yeah.
He's better trained in the Force than he was the last time they took him, right? Last time he was just a baby in this crib or whatever, in this little what do you call it? What are those things they call
bassinet?
Bassinet, yeah, there you go. He's just a baby and didn't really do anything to resist, but now he's been on a bunch of adventures with Mando. He's had more experience. He's been able to use the Force more, and he's a threat to them. I don't think it's going to be so easy for them to take those midichlorians out of him this time around. Yeah,
I don't think they might get away with a little more DNA just for plot purposes. But I think what we're about to see is a major ass whooping for Mr. Gideon. And when Mr. Gideon's gone, then I think he will be gone. And then I think it'll be a Thrawn time after that.
Yeah, next season. Next season will be Thrawn time.
I think that's what we're talking about. Unless that, of course, becomes an Ahsoka series, which is possible too. But I mean, I didn't think we'd see Boba Fett again in this series. I thought I didn't see him,
and again, it shows you how easily they can just slot him in there. It's like he was following him. That's it. And he saved Ming-Na Wen somehow, and then she is indebted to him now. Like he's got a sidekick. Boba Fett has a sidekick. That's never happened before. So it's a really great. The way the storytelling is excellent. The pacing is excellent. It's so much fun. I love it.
And it also occurs to me, floating around out there are Boba Fett's former friends. IG-88, Bosk, Dengar, and maybe Dengar hasn't had the lame plastic surgery that J.J. Abrams gave him in Rise of Skywalker, and maybe Zuckuss, Forlom. Can he phone those guys up? Like, can we get? do you think?
Boba Fett can get the crew together again. Yeah.
Like, I kept thinking, like there might be. Like, we're likely to see some combination of interesting characters we don't expect to show up and kick some Imperial ass, and I think it's going to be pretty sweet. I don't know who fights Moff Gideon with the against Moff Gideon with the dark saber, but if I'd guess, I'd say it's Ahsoka.
Yeah,
like Bo-Katan wants it back, but I think Ahsoka fights that guy, doesn't she?
It's got to be, because she's got the lightsaber, so that's got to be what it is. And then she gets it back, and then she's off to, like, she uses him to find. And by the way, we didn't see her kill that woman. Did you watch it again? She did. At the end, I watched it again with Luke when and at the end you see her holding the lightsaber up to that woman's throat, and then there's the old Star Wars wipe up, And that's it.
yeah.
We did not see her kill that woman, and we did not see her give any information about Thrawn. So that woman could have given her information about Gideon, who will then get her to Thrawn next season. So.
Right. And what I like is all of their threads aligning. So Boba Fett can go, well, it's been nice knowing you. It's nice to help you. Maybe we'll run into each other again someday. And off he goes to his own series. And Ahsoka goes, I'm happy to have returned the Darksaber to the good people of Mandalore, or whatever happens. I'm off to do my series. And Luke Skywalker goes, well, you saw me kick some ass, which you didn't. Well, for some reason, J.J. Abrams didn't want to show you. I don't know why. But anyway, you saw me kick some ass. You'll never see me again in Star Wars, but you got to see me one more time. And so I could ignite the green one more time.
Love that.
I think part of me when I watched today's episode is I thought this is a lot of wish fulfillment, but it's also a lot of JJ could have done this. There's a lot of JJ could have done this.
Yeah, for sure.
It's hard to read it as anything other than that. And I think if I were Jon Favreau, I'd be rubbing my hands together in delight and going, look at all the stuff that they left alone that we can do. And I by no means am I suggesting that it's a diss of J.J. Abrams. I just think that J.J. Abrams left them some really good stuff that he didn't use.
Pablo talked about that when he was on the podcast and when he was here for FanQuest. He said that there's so many, like when he says, you know, we have to be careful about the stories we tell because we leave room for other people to tell stories. And yeah, like he says he hates when somebody says that Anakin was on a planet for 6 months, because then there's 6 months of storytelling that they can't use, or if you do have to do it, then he has to be on this planet. So they try to avoid that kind of stuff so that it's open. And yeah, you're right. There's a lot of possibility here for storytelling in this universe, which is I didn't expect it to happen. I thought we were done, especially during like around the really original trilogy. And I know this is happening after the original trilogy, but that's like I guess the best space because we have 30 years to explore between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, right? So cool.
Yeah, what an episode.
Cool stuff. I saw on your Instagram that you got your Mando figurine. You finally got your Black Series Mando figure.
Caroline ordered it for me. She couldn't stand hearing me talk about it anymore. And in lockdown, I was like, I guess I'll never find it. Because I didn't ask her what she paid for it, but I'm guessing a premium.
Okay.
And it came with a little card. I you know what? Maybe next week I'll tell you where she ordered it from, because it came with a card. And I was like, whoa, what's this? And she grabbed it out of my hand and said, don't look at that card. So there's like some Christmas present or something.
Okay.
that still has not shipped or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So I couldn't really get a look at the name. At some point I saw the name of it, but yeah, and I've got him actually sitting up on my shelf next to the little Baby Yoda Black Series. So it's the original Mando in the original armor, which is the one I wanted most.
Okay.
Because I figured that one's going to be harder to find than the one with his all kitted out.
Yeah,
because that's the one most people are looking for. Yeah. Cool. So I got him sitting next to little Baby Yoda. It's perfect.
Nice, excellent. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Cool stuff.
Good day for Star Wars.
Yep. All right, that's gonna do it for another episode of the Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Badabunker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you on the ass.
I'm taking an awful risk, Vader. This had better work.
Where did you dig up that old fossil? That's no moon.
Now I am the master.
TK421, you copy? Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.